Now I'm sure most you F1 fans out there already know this, but for those who don't, EA Sports, the maker of games like FIFA, Madden, and NHL, and this, it's a bit of an odd one out here, but whatever. I'm sure you all know about the recent acquirement of Codemasters by EA Sports. Now, as you can also tell by the title of this video, this could possibly mean quite a lot for the F1 game franchise. We've already seen a couple trailers, or we've seen a trailer for the F1 2021 game, but that was mostly about the Breaking Point Karim. Now, I'm going to run through with you on my opinion, and maybe I'm preempting this a bit and it won't be as bad as we think, but you never know. It could be a lot worse than it has been, and already worse than EA Sport games have already been. But let me run you through why I think F1 2021 video game will be the most important in the next couple of years for the games franchise. So, obviously, as I've said, with the recent acquirement of Codemasters by EA Sports, the reason that I personally think that this could be the pivotal game in the F1 game franchise is because if EA Sports and Codemasters have been planning out this year's game and they've put tons of effort into it and they've really tried to make this game this year as good as possible, then it's not good. EA have already shown all their cards and they've proved that it's not good. Nobody's gonna want to play the game for the next however many years until it gets rectified. And EA Sports, knowing them, don't really rectify a lot of problems with their games. As I mentioned earlier, games like FIFA and Madden have a lot of online bugs and glitches and microtransactions, which we will get onto later, but mainly the online section. It's not the best, and it's definitely not the best for the esports scene, which is developing and is already not that great. Although we have seen things like the Challenger League for Xbox, PlayStation and PC develop in the recent weeks and months, it's still not up to scratch with other games like Rainbow Six Siege, CSGO and Rocket League esports, which is understandable and most likely expected, but we still have to work on improving the esports scene side of F1 and in general the multiplayer side, because the single player side is fairly good already with the new introduction of My Team this year, or this year's game, sorry, and Driver Career Mode is relatively okay. It just gets a bit boring after a couple of seasons, but that's fine because people normally move on to new games by then. Now, my main concern with the acquirement of Codemasters by EA Sports is that the microtransactions that have been brought into games like FIFA and Madden aren't the greatest thing that they've done, let's just say that. And if they bring something like that to F1, similar to what Codemasters sort of did with the Podium Pass in this year's game, it's not gonna be very popular with the fan base. I mean, we've already seen people's discontent to microtransactions and buying the Podium Pass, but you have to buy things or pay money to acquire certain game modes or certain cars. It's not going to go down with the fan base very well at all. People are just going to get a bad impression of what's to come for the future. And it goes back to my point that I made a bit earlier on, where if EA Sports show all their cards for this year's game and it's not a good game, people aren't going to be going, oh, they'll probably do it better next year, because they've shown all they've got. They've put lots of effort and all this into this year's game, and it's not good, then it's a problem. Will this year's game be good? I don't know. I haven't played it. Nobody's played it. It's not out yet. The only thing we know of this game and the only thing we've seen of the game are trailers and unfinished works of the cars. We have no idea what this year's game is going to bring us. But if EA Sports do a bad job with it, it's not going to go down well with the fan base. It's not going to be positive for the next couple of years of the game's franchise. And really, EA Sports isn't very popular in the gaming community already, and especially with F1 fans, because we didn't need EA Sports to come in necessarily. The game was kind of okay on its own, and we didn't need this big massive tech company coming and changing up the game, but they did, and people can't do anything about that. But people obviously aren't going to be very happy if it ruins the game that they like, and they're not going to buy it in the future necessarily because it's not a good game. And obviously that will mean that sales of F1 video game in the future will go down, and then eventually over time it will not be, it won't make as much revenue, and Codemasters and EA will inevitably go, well look, people don't like this, we made changes that we shouldn't have made, we made bad changes, people don't like it anymore, not as many people are buying it, and now they don't like it, and now they don't want to play it, and now we're not getting as much money as we're spending, or as much as we're getting before, so it's not worth continuing. And that is a serious place where this F1 game franchise could go. But it all depends on what EA Sports, in my opinion, it all depends on what EA Sports do this year's game. And with the introduction of Breaking Point, it does look promising, because that looks like a very good game mode, and I've heard good things about it from what I've heard in press reports and press releases, and in the trailer. It looks like it's very exciting and it could bring a lot of potential. But we don't know until we play it how good it is, what it's about. Is it good? What's it about? Is it good for content? Are content creators just going to disregard it? And when content creators don't play it, other people don't really tend to play it as much, and then it sort of becomes washed out, and people are like, well, yeah, you brought in this new thing, but it's not good, and we don't like it. And ultimately, EA are going to have to find a perfect balance between putting in as much effort as they want to. I don't know, I don't work for EA, I don't know what they're doing behind the scenes with the video game, but how much effort are they putting into, how much resources are they putting into this year's game? Because inevitably, people who don't like this year's game, it doesn't bid well for the future of the F1 game franchise, and people aren't going to want to play the next couple of years, because EA have already shown that they can't, they're messing up the game, it's not as good as it was, and eventually it could mean the end of the franchise, which would be very sad, but it's a real thing that could happen. And I know I've repeated a lot of points, well, I know I repeated a couple points in this video, but I'm really trying to convey that this year, if it does all go wrong, it could be wrong for the rest of the time. It might never be right again. People might not want to buy the game, and then, as I said, they won't want to purge it, they won't want to make it, they're going to get less revenue, so they'll go, well, what's the point in making it, because people aren't going to buy it, they don't like it, and blah 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 blah. So, now, importantly, do I think that this year's game will be bad, and do I think that this will be the inevitable end of the F1 game franchise? No. I have a promising hope. I'm very hopeful for this year's game, that I actually think it will be a very good game, based off the press releases and the trailers. Of course nobody knows until we see in-game footage of anything, or early like releases of the game and the car models. But based off what I've seen and heard and read, it does look like it's a very good game. And obviously everyone says that every year. But to bring in new ownership to the Codemasters facility, it makes it a lot different, because ultimately you don't know how much say EA has had in the development of this year's game. I mean, you know, they could have changed major things. They've had their, by the time it's released, they'll have about 6 months to change anything in that game that they wanted to change, and anything they disagree with, and anything they want to add. So it's very, you're very in the dark about how much influence EA has. What have they done to the game? Have they done anything? Has it all been Codemasters? If it is just Codemasters as well, and it's not a good game, that also doesn't bid very well for the future. But that's not my main concern. My main concern is EA bringing in features that people won't like, or microtransactions, or DLC packs, for example, for the Portimao, Jeddah, and Imola tracks. Probably not Istanbul. I wouldn't. Maybe that would come in even later on. But if you have to pay for that DLC, then there's a problem. But if you don't, people will be fine with that. And honestly, that will probably be good progress for EA, and to be liked by the F1 game-based community, because if you're having this late notice of changes to the calendar, new tracks being added to the calendar, and you're being able to make them, design them, put them into the game for your players and your fan base to enjoy and play for free, people are going to be happy with that, people will like that, when there's not, obviously, definitely no complaints from that. But if people are having to buy it, when it's kind of down to them to add it, because it's their game, they're the ones who try and make it as realistic to the real life as possible, then it becomes more of a 50-50 between that person who's playing the game, if they like that decision to do that, or if they don't. Now, I don't think this will be anywhere near the end for the F1 game franchise. I think it's very promising. The multiplayer definitely needs a couple reworks, but if they do that, and they adjust a couple things on to the multiplayer side and the esports side of F1, I definitely think it's a promising game for the future couple of years, and I wouldn't put past it being one of the top esports in the world if they do fix the multiplayer side of the game, and all these small little bugs and fixes that need to be made to multiplayer online and the esports system as a whole. But if it does get fixed, and these multiplayer is more sustainable, more playable, the rankings are better, and obviously this is something that I could make an entirely new video on, but you know, if all these things get fixed and it's a good game, people like it, it's enjoyable, no glitches, no silly stuff that's going on in your games, it looks good for Codemasters and EA in the future, and for the future development of the game. And it shows positive signs. It also shows work, that they are like committed to what they're doing, and they're not just there for the money. If they improve the game, then it's clear that they have good intentions and they're not just there for money like some people say they are with other games like FIFA, where their multiplayer isn't up to scratch sometimes, and it is very buggy. But this is just my personal opinion. Obviously everyone's going to have completely different opinions, but in my opinion this year is one of the most important years for the F1 game franchise, as I say, earlier on a couple of times, and I keep on reinforcing this point because I just think it's so important. If this game is bad and EA have showed all their cards, or they haven't struck the best with the fan base of the game, and they add these microtransactions and that people don't like, and you have to buy all this and that to access this, and all like to buy other stuff to access stuff. It's not what fans are going to want. People don't like that. We've seen that with games like FIFA, where microtransactions and FIFA packs and stuff have become increasingly more dominant than actually making the game an enjoyable experience and fixing the problems that the game has. So, do I think that this is where EA Sports is going to go this year? No, I don't. I genuinely do think that they are not going to be focusing on microtransactions and stuff, because most companies wouldn't, when they're working on a new game, focus on the money side of things. That would come later down the line, in my opinion. As a business move, it would make more sense to do that later on than immediately first year there with developing the game, and that you add all this stuff that people aren't going to like. You're going to get a lot of backlash for it, and it's not worth it. And I also think part of that is that I don't think EA Sports will have much intention to add stuff like an Ultimate Team to F1 Online. I mean, I'm not even sure how you would do that. I mean, would it be like My Team, but live races against other people? I mean, that would be cool. That I actually would like that. But if it comes in the form of an Ultimate Team where you have to buy packs to unlock certain drivers and better upgrades for your car and stuff, then obviously that's not a good idea. But I don't think that you would be able to implement a sort of idea like that into a game like F1. I don't really think F1 has at the moment the potential for an Ultimate Team styled game mode, but obviously we'll see what EA does with the game, and we'll see what they do this year and in the future years of what's to come. And as I say, if this year's game isn't very good, or other things, people don't like it, blah blah blah, then yeah, it doesn't bode well for the future of F1. But you know, you never know. Nobody knows. Nobody's seen actual gameplay of the game, so nobody knows what's in it, what it's going to feel like, what the game's going to be like, handling microtransactions until the game comes out in June, I believe it is, mid-June or July. I'm sure I'll correct myself in the editing if I'm wrong, but no, yeah, nobody will know until we really see it, and until it gets released. Then we have no idea what the game's gonna throw at us and what it's gonna consist of. But it'll be interesting to see, and as I say, I'm quite positive actually for F1 2021. I think it'll be a good game, and hopefully I can make some videos for you guys on it. But yeah, obviously that's something that I'll be looking into, and I'll be very interested to do, as I'm sure other content creators will be. Anyway, at this point I'm sort of rambling on, just trying to get the video to a nice even number of 20 minutes. But yeah, basically as a final point, that was my final point, as I was saying. But in general, I definitely think EA have a couple things they need to fix, but mostly that's just online, and maybe a couple performance bugs on PC, because I know that the game tends to crash a lot on PC, or has sort of frame rate drops, so that's obviously not the most enjoyable for the players. But yeah, I think they're very small things that they would have to fix in that. Those type of things that need to be fixed are very small, and it's very easy for a company like EA Sports to put that into their game and suggest to Codemasters that these get fixed and to help them fix them with better servers, etc. But yeah, I'm looking forward to F1 2021. I think it'll be a very good game. Looking forward to the new game mode of Breaking Point. Hopefully that'll bring some refreshment to the game. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know your opinions and your thoughts of what you think the game will be like, or just on what I've said. Do you think that this year will be as much of an important year for F1 as I do? I don't know. Let me know down in the comments. Give the video a like and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. And don't forget, I am uploading daily in May, so you're going to see a lot of banger content, possibly some F1 content. Who knows? We'll see. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video.
Great job, you've done everything we wanted today.
Victory for the team from Milton Keynes then, after a quality performance. Tell me, Ant, how did they manage to achieve this win?
I think that smart tyre management on track and very smooth driving definitely assisted in their victory today. That combination meant they got the absolute maximum out of their tyres at all times.
The drivers are en route to the podium as we speak. What a fantastic win for the Red Bull team. They performed exceptionally today, keeping us firmly on the edge of our seats throughout the entirety of the race. Congratulations to every one of the team.